Hi, welcome to my computational skills video for EDEL 316. My equation is 436 subtract 238. 436 is the minuend and 238 is the subtrahend, and we are computing the difference. To estimate the difference, I'm going to make friendly numbers. I'm going to round 436 up to 440, and I'm going to round 238 up to 240. Now I have two numbers that I can mentally subtract. 440 subtract 240 equals a difference of 200. This is my estimation. To represent my equation concretely, I'm going to use base 10 blocks. Above the line, I have represented the minuend, and below the line, I have represented the subtrahend. To begin, I'm going to start from the hundreds place. I will represent 400 subtract 200 by removing two flats from the subtrahend and two flats from the minuend to cancel them out. I'm now left with two flats, which represents 200. Now I'm going to move on to the tens place. I have 3 rods in the minuend and 3 rods in the subtrahend. I will represent subtraction by removing 3 rods from the subtrahend and 3 rods from the minuend. These cancel out, and I am now left with no rods, which represents 0 tens. Now moving on to the ones place. I see that I have 6 units in the minuend and 8 units in the subtrahend. I'm unable to subtract 8 from 6, so I must trade. I'm going to trade 1 flat for 10 rods. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now that I have 10 rods, I'm going to trade one of these rods for 10 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I now have 16 units in total in my minuend. Now I can subtract 8 units from the 16 units by removing 8 units from the subtrahend and 8 units in the minuend. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These cancel out, and I am now left with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm now left with 8 units. In total, after all the trade-offs, I have 1 flat that represents 100, 9 rods that represent 90, and 8 units that represent 8. In total, I have 198 as the difference to the equation 436 subtract 238. This is my pictorial representation. To represent subtraction in the hundreds column, I'm going to cross out 2 flats in the subtrahend and 2 flats in the minuend to cancel them out. I'm now left with 2 flats. To represent subtraction in the tens place, I'm going to cross out 3 rods in the subtrahend and 3 rods in the minuend to cancel them out. I now have 0 rods. In the ones place, I'm unable to subtract 8 units from 6 units, so I'm going to trade one of my flats for 10 rods. To represent this trade, I will cross out the flat and draw in 10 rods. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now that I have 10 rods, I'm going to trade 1 rod for 10 units. To represent this trade, I will cross out 1 rod and I will draw in 10 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now I have 16 units in my minuend, and I'm going to subtract 8 units from 16 units by crossing out 8 units in the subtrahend and 8 units in the minuend. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now I have 8 units. In total, after the trade-offs, I have 1 flat that represents 100, 9 rods that represent 90, and 8 units that represent 8. In total, I have 198. This is my symbolic representation. To begin, I'm going to start from the hundreds place and subtract 200 from 400 to receive a difference of 200. In the tens place, I will subtract 30 from 30 to receive a difference of 0. Now I move on to the tens place, but I am unable to subtract 8 from 6, so I must make some trade-offs. I'm going to trade 100 for 10 tens. To make this trade-off, I will subtract 100 from this equation, and I will add 100 to the equation below. Now 200 becomes 100, and 0 becomes 100. Now, I must make one more trade-off. I must trade 1 10 for 10 ones. In order to make this trade-off, I'm going to subtract 10 from this equation and add 10 to the equation below. Now this equation equals 90, and I am able to solve this. I can add 6 to 10 to make a sum of 16 and subtract 8 from 16, which makes a difference of 8. Now I can add up all my numbers. 100 add 90 add 8 produces 198, which is the solution to my equation. For my personal strategy, I'm going to use this jump strategy, and I will use the takeaway approach. I'm going to start with my minuend on one end of the number line, and I'm going to jump back enough numbers to equal my subtrahend, 238. After all my jumps add up to 238, I will have received the answer for my subtraction equation. To begin, I will write 436 on one side of the number line. I'm going to begin by taking away 200 by jumping back 200. Now I get an answer of 236. 238 subtract 200 equals 38. This means I have 38 left. I will now jump back 30. Now I am left with 206. 38 subtract 30 equals 8. This means I have 8 left, so I will jump back 8. I am now left with 198. 8 subtract 8 equals 0. Therefore, all the sums of my jump equal 238, so I have finished. I am now left with an answer of 198. We are now going to check our estimate. Our initial estimate was 200, and our actual answer to our equation is 198. The difference between the estimate and the actual answer is 2, so we can conclude that our estimate was reasonable.